Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm gonna do just a chill recap of my first week as a bookseller. I'm gonna share with you what books I sold the most this week and share with you a couple of really great experiences that I had. Now these are all books that I noticed were coming up to the register time and time again. They're not necessarily books that I had recommended to people, but I'll tell you what I did recommend. The first one is Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. Ali Hazelwood started writing fan fiction on the internet, and someone stumbled across her writing, and she turned a Raylo fan fiction into her first novel, which was The Love Hypothesis. It went on to spend more than 40 weeks on the NYT bestsellers list. Since 2021, she's just been churning out novel after novel, and her latest is Deep End, which is about a swimmer and a diver. It feels very Challengers adjacent, where a competitive sport complicates a relationship and is basically a character in and of itself. For the people that bought Deep End, I recommended First Time Caller. I just need to state for the record, I hate this cover. I think it looks poorly drawn, and it's cringy. Yeah. And I have a feeling that what's inside is a lot better than what we're seeing on the outside. Lights Out by Nevessa Allen. This is a weird one. As soon as I read the summary of this book, it reminded me immediately of when Brittany Broski was talking about how she was lightly obsessed with the masked men that she would see come across her TikTok feed. And that's basically what this book is about. There's a female nurse and a male masked man, and darkness, sex, and probably murder occur. Like, I'm guessing that there's a crime, at least one crime committed by the end of this book. I'm not reading this, but enjoy. This is a cool one that I was pleasantly surprised by. The Chronicles of Doom, Unraveling Rap's Masked Iconoclast. This is about the legendary rapper MF Doom, whose real name was Daniel DeMille Jr. Look at that. The cover reflects his love of comics and cartoons that he infused into his music. When I saw guests buying this one, I recommended Rap Capital, which I kept calling Rap City, but basically it's a book that I found at a little free library, also nonfiction, about a music journalist who goes to Atlanta and researches the underground rap scene. Dogman by Dave Pilkey, the creator of Captain Underpants, kept coming across my counter, and people were not just buying one, they were buying multiples in the series. Every transaction that had a Dogman book was more than one, which is impressive. The movie's out right now. They adapted it into a film that is also doing really well. Props to Dave Pilkey, who has cracked the code. Basically, this is about a police dog and a police officer who get injured on the job, and in order to save their lives, a surgery happens that fuses the two bodies together. I don't know, but somehow it's working. The Bones Beneath My Skin by TJ Klune. This one was originally published in 2018 when he published it himself straight to ebook, and it's now being published in print in hardcover in 2025 by Tor. It's an paranormal fantasy romance about Nate, who is a journalist who's just lost both of his parents. So he's like, let me go to this cabin in the woods to chill out for a few days. When he gets there, there's somebody there. Alex, a man who's injured, and an eccentric little girl whose name is Artemis Darth Vader. Alright. This was actually my pick for this month's book of the month, so I'm really excited to read it. And all the guests who came in to buy this book had read previous works from Klune, so clearly he's got a really dedicated fan base. And this will be my first Klune book. I have The House in the Cerulean Sea on hold at the library, so I'm just waiting for that, because that's what I thought was going to be my first read, but this one sounds really cool. Alright, so let me tell you about some interesting situations. But first, I'm going to take a bite of this hot dog. Quite honestly, I'm tired. I've been on my feet all week, and yes, in my last job, I was on my feet a lot. I just felt like I was moving around more. In this one, I'm a little sedentary in one spot, which that will change once I'm finished training and I'll be able to break people, walk around, do this and that. But for now, it's been a little hard on my back, so that's why I'm just trying to nurse myself back to health on my day off, because I'm gonna be back at work tomorrow, opening. Alright, so let me tell you about this. A man comes up with an art book by Robert Casalino called David Lynch, The Unified Field. He's just double checking the price with me, and it's around $40. Usually art books are around $35 to $40. Some cookbooks are priced the same. I thought he was going to ask me to price match it, but actually he turned his phone around, and on Amazon it was available for $1,300. Same book that was in front of me, $1,300. So obviously I remembered in that moment that David Lynch, the legendary director of Eraserhead and Twin Peaks and the OG Dune, he had passed away early this year. So naturally, anything about him is going to go up in price. But what I was surprised by was that we couldn't really find this book online. And in our store, we only had two, one of which was in front of me. So he was just making sure with me that we weren't undercharging him, which we weren't. We were just charging him the retail price. This book was published by the University of California Press in 2014, and as I did some digging online, I really couldn't find it, and I think it's out of print, most likely. We only had one other copy. I think you could probably order it from the publisher if you really wanted to. The spike online is probably just a combination of those circumstances of it being out of print, making it rare, and being about David Lynch. I told the guy, you should honestly just go and buy the other one. That way you could have two, you could sell one of them. Who cares? There were a few sites that had it for retail price, but then the last 4 results, they were all over $2,000. I don't know anyone who's going to pay that, but I guess if you're a huge David Lynch fan and you're a collector, then you'll pay anything. So it's kind of gross, down and dirty that people up the price when people die, but if the demand is there, yeah, sure, get your check. Next, I had a guest come up with a Stephen King book, and I had just watched the trailer for the Osgood Perkins movie, The Monkey, that's coming out next weekend. So I had asked her, do you like Stephen King? And are you going to see The Monkey when it comes out next weekend? And she's like, actually, I just read The Monkey with my son a few nights ago, and we loved it. Do you think that movie is appropriate for a 12-year-old? Now, if y'all go and search up the Red Band trailer on YouTube, you would see for a traditional 12-year-old, it's absolutely inappropriate. But if her 12-year-old is anything like I was at 12, then yeah, it's appropriate. Go see it. Because I was out there watching Cloverfield at 12. Yeah, I loved horror. Even if at the time it might have given me nightmares. Given me nightmares. I had to see it. Because I wanted to know what everyone was talking about. It made me feel alive, even if the people on screen weren't. So shout out to that mom and her son. She told me that her son had already seen the trailer and that it wasn't too bad for him. It kind of shook me, but you better go and bond over those chaotic kills. Let's talk about Valentine's Day. I closed on Valentine's Day. I know, but it was my first week, so I just wanted to go with the flow and, not cause any waves with the scheduling. Plus, I wanted to see what was going on. Is it going to be slow? Is it going to be busy? It was really quite busy, and it was so heartwarming to see these couples come in, and a few of them would come in and pick out a book for the other one. They would go and buy it, put it in a bag, and then they would trade, and then they would react, and it was just like the sweetest thing ever. Like, how touching is it to go to a bookstore on Valentine's Day? There are so many other places you could be, and you came to peruse the stacks. I love that. And I was over there saying Happy Valentine's Day 2 or 3 days before. Why not? We'll do it for Christmas. And then, I got a lot of Fourth Wings, a couple of Iron Flames. I talked to a girl who read Fourth Wing, loved it, and wasn't sure about Iron Flame, and I told her, this one is my favorite so far. It's a little longer than the other two that are out, but there's so much action, there's so much character development and lore being fed to you in this seamless way that I just had such a great time with it. And she's like, well, I'm nervous about reading Onyx Storm, a lot of people are not liking it. I'm like, you know what, It's a huge series. There's mixed reactions because it's not going to live up to everyone's expectations. There's so much pressure on Rebecca Yarros right now to create these perfect books, and she just needs to write how she writes in order to create another book in this series that's going to feel authentic to what she's already created. I thought Onyx Storm was good. I really liked the ending. She knows how to write a fucking ending. But I also told her that you go to a completely new place that you haven't seen before. So there's so much to explore and to experience. I said, just take it step by step and enjoy the ride. Don't try to rush through it. Don't try to overanalyze, and just have fun with it. That's the whole point. As for my reading was all over the place this week because I had really odd shifts. Like, I'm full-time, so instead of like a normal 8-hour shift, I was having like a 5-hour, a 6.5, and this and that, just kind of weird the first week. But it'll get normal. But it obviously affected my reading. I did want to read on my lunch break, but it's also just really distracting. I try to have my lunch outside because it's usually quieter, and it was really nice on the day that it poured here in California, which that was a wild day. So I finished When They Tell You to Be Good earlier this week. I was able to do that, and I wanted to start The Nickel Boys, which I did start at home, but I found it really hard for me to pay attention at lunch on a couple of days this week. And then I would come home and I would read Two Twisted Crowns. So I also just feel like, and I have some books on my Kindle too, and from the library. I just feel like I'm doing too much right now, and I need to zone in. Yeah, because I do need to give Two Twisted Crowns back to my girl Talia, because it's hers, it's a borrow, and I've had it for a while now. And then I started listening to Wings of Starlight, which is this sweet Pixie Hollow young adult book that a lot of people have been talking about, and I love the cover, but it's not like totally grabbing me yet. While I keep carrying around Nickel Boys, while I'm carrying around my Kindle and putting more books on that, which I'm not gonna have a Kindle forever, okay? Once I get my first few paychecks, I'm gonna get a Kobo. Yeah. I have been playing a little Tell Me Why. That's a game that I started sometime last year, and I just never kept up with it. And then something in me was craving it again for some reason. It's very narrative driven. So I jumped back on that the other day, and I was enjoying that. I am a good amount through Astrobot on PS5, actually. And that one I'm kind of like delaying the satisfaction because I don't want it to end. Like, it's just so fun. Go a few weeks without playing it, and then I'll play it. It brings me happiness, and then I'll not play it for a little bit longer. One of the perks of working at a bookstore is receiving ARCs, or advanced reader copies, and there are a couple of bookcases in the back of ARCs that any of the employees can take. So my first day, I said, show me the ARC room, and I was just in heaven. Now, I didn't recognize a lot of the titles because I'm just getting into keeping up with the book news, but I did get a few, and I'll show you what I got. I don't believe I can talk about what happens in it. I have no idea. I was not given any guidelines, but I think that's how ARCs work. I can give a generalization until it's released, but I haven't read any of them at this point, so it doesn't even matter. Homeseeking by Carissa Chen, that's out already. I got that one. I got Sheepdogs by Elliot Ackerman, which goes on sale in August of this year. It looks so fun. I'll show you the cover. I don't know if it's the final cover. I'm pretty sure it is, but the description is chaotic, and I love it. It's like a spy thriller. I also got The Phoenix Pencil Company by Allison King, which is out in July. I believe that's a debut, and it sounds really, really interesting. It's based on several different events that she's experienced in her life regarding this pencil factory and the meaning of pencils and using them still in a digital age. And it's a fiction, but it's got some really cool elements in it, at least from what I read on the back. So I got those three, and then I also got Your Steps on the Stairs by Antonio Munoz Molina, which, I'm sorry, but this Canva cover is absolutely terrible. I don't know what is going on here. This is not what grabbed me. What grabbed me was the description on the back. A couple's new life in Lisbon unravels in this heady and unsettling psychological thriller from one of Spain's most celebrated writers. This is translated by Curtis Bauer. This is a book that was published in 2019 in Spanish, and they are now releasing it in English, Tus Pasos en la Escalera, in Spain. And so now they are releasing the English translation, and I pray that they pick a different cover, because this is not going to attract people. I'm going to tell you right now. I also sold a few of these, which I got this in San Francisco. I have not read it yet. She won the Nobel Prize in Literature. Everyone that brought this to my counter was really excited about it. All right, this is Sheepdog's cover. It looks really, really cool. And then let me read the blurb for you on the back. Squirrel and Cheese are down on their luck. Squirrel, who is resourceful, like a squirrel. Marines win battles, not spelling bees, because it's spelled Skwrl. Used to work for Ground Branch, the CIA's elite paramilitary wing. He was fired after a raid went bad in Afghanistan. Big Cheese Aziz, a legendary pilot, his country's maverick, is equally hard up. The fall of Kabul has left him grounded, working the night shift at a gas station. Squirrel recruits Cheese into an anonymous network of so-called sheepdogs, a band of Robin Hoods who operate in the shadowy space between the sheep and the wolves, protecting prey from predator and earning a buck along the way. Their mission? Repossess a private jet stranded on a remote African airfield. Their fee? A commission on the jet's $5 million value. But nothing about this job is adding up. Their contact has gone missing. Their handler is as mysterious as the real source of the money. And when the women in their lives get involved, one pregnant wife and one dominatrix, the stakes skyrocket. This shit sounds wild, and I'm so here for it. This has a projected release of August 5th. Homeseeking came out January 7th, and it was also a pick for Book of the Month. This is about recently widowed Hai Wen, who spots an old flame, Suchi, at a grocery store in LA, and it feels like a second chance. Suchi has only survived by refusing to look back. In the twilight of their lives, because they're in their final act, can they reclaim their past and the love they lost? And finally, The Phoenix Pencil Company by Allison King. In this dazzling debut novel, a hidden and nearly forgotten magic, reforging pencils, bringing the memories they contain back to life, holds the power to transform a young woman's relationship with her grandmother and to mend long-lost connections across time and space. King is a Reese's Book Club Lit Up Fellow, and this is her debut novel. So that is it for week 1. It's felt really cool to work at a bookstore after falling in love with reading in November. The circumstances lined up to make this happen. I wish that booksellers and bookstore employees in general made more money, but I think for this moment in my life, it's a good spot to be in, and I'm really enjoying interacting with the guests and the other people in other departments. It's just been a great week. It's a little overwhelming with all of the information I have to learn, obviously, and the standing all day, but I'll hopefully get adjusted to it, and I'll let you know how the second week goes. Well, that's it for today. Mahalo for watching. I'll see you next time, and yeah, good night.